Okay, so back again. Welcome everybody. For those who've been there before, second time. For those who've just joined, hello and thank you for joining. We will host a webinar today. The topic Agile MBSE, or subtitle How to Work Successfully with Modeling in an Agile Environment. Both topics are very prominent at the moment. Agile is a process approach, project management approach, which is very popular and spreads very fast. At the same time, complexity drives MBSE, and we want to show you a unique solution how that could fit together. Maybe before we start, 2 or 3 organizational things. If you have questions during the meeting, since there's so many participants, please post them into the Q&A window, or Fragen und Antworten for the German participants. And we will address them after the meeting. In case we don't get to them, we will answer them, put them and send them after the meeting, so every question will be answered. Also, we have a request, please. At the end of the meeting, we have a very small questionnaire with only 2 questions for you. If you could fill that out after the meeting, takes half a minute, 1 minute, it would help us to address you better in follow-on discussions. And last but not least, webinar will be recorded and made available after the recording. Okay, so Manuel, please, next slide. From an agenda point, I will do an introduction of the 2 speakers. Then I will briefly touch on the topic why NANGA Systems and LieberLieber work together and what we have to do with the Agile MBSE topic. And then afterwards, Manuel will present first in slides, then in a live demo, the solutions. And then Daniel Siegl will dive into MBSE and also the Agile topic as the last and 4th part. Okay. So Manuel, next slide. So this is Manuel. As you can see, we just caught him on a bike. So he's the development lead within NANGA Systems. He's been with the company now for roughly 3 years, 2.5 years. And he is leading the development team. And one of the products or solutions that they've created is part of the presentation. I will point to that in the next slide. He's doing product management for all these products that we develop and coordinates development teams that we have internationally. So thank you. Next slide. Daniel Siegl used to be an enterprise mobility guy working for the Deutsche Post for the designing the logistics processes. But soon after that, he switched over to the MBSE topic. He's been not only years, but I think decades working with MBSE, and is very, very active in a lot of international standardization committees, like you can see here, ProStep, IWIP, INCOSI, OMG, and others, for defining standards in the MBSE world, for exchanging, and also for, of course, the languages themselves. Thank you. Next slide. So the last thing I want to touch off, we will see in the live presentation of Manuel today, a few solutions. One of them is the requirement management solution. In our case, we use Windchill RVNS. It hosts all the requirements in a textual form. This will then be connected to the enterprise architect from Sparks. And in order to connect the 2 solutions and have synchronicity between those, we use the solution that Manuel and his team have developed. It's the NANGA Enterprise Architect Integration. Last but not least, on the right side, on the lower right side, you can see Lemon Tree, which is an add-on that LieberLieber has developed and helps versioning models that reside into Enterprise Architect. And this is a key feature to connecting to the Agile world, which we'll see in the following solution. This repository we have at the moment is Git, can be exchanged with any other repository, also, for example, from PTC. Okay. So I think from my side, that's it. I'll pass on to Manuel and Daniel, and I wish you a good webinar with the 2 of those. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lars, for the introduction. Also, a very warm welcome from my side to you all. To understand what Agile MBSE is and how it could help us in the daily work, we should look back to the old-fashioned way to organize the development process. And this is a document-based approach. And this means that you have a lot of documents, which are a container for your requirements, for your specifications, and also for your test designs. And these documents are stored in a big database system in your ALM or PAM system. And you use these documents as or to get a common understanding of your system and the product you want to build. And you use this as foundation for your contracts with your suppliers and your customers, and also as basis for your development activities. Here you can see an example for a document-centric approach. You have different roles or people which are working on the system. For example, system architects, some requirements engineers, or system testers. And for example, your requirement engineer writes a new requirement in the document, and the tester is using this requirement to design and writing new test cases. And all of the requirements and tests in this example are related together, and you have a lot of relationships between all the items in your documents. This leads to some challenges. I think it's very realistic when you, for example, developing a new automotive or a new car, then you have a lot of requirements in a document, and therefore you have very complex document structures. You have chapters and subchapters, and this is very hard because all of the items there can have further relationships to other items. And each document, which you can see, represents only one viewpoint. And this is hard when you are talking with other people in the development process. And yeah, it's very difficult to achieve and maintain consistency in your data. And especially in an agile environment, there you can have a lot of change requests and changes, and your deep dependencies in your data requiring complex review processes. And this is very hard to manage. And yeah, last but not least, a document cannot be simulated. So yeah, how we can improve this? The solution for this is model-based system engineering. And Daniel will tell you more about this.
Hi, so it's time for me to talk. The model-based systems engineering can help you because you basically break down those huge artifacts that you had in documents, in Word or whatever, and your architecture and design documents into small elements that are atomic to itself, for example, a use case, and you can render all sorts of documents and deliverables from these models. The nature of the models are basically that they are graphs connecting information. And this gives you a lot of possible viewpoints on this information. And this is the beauty of the models. And you shall always remember a sentence by my colleague, not as a company, but as an MBSE guy, Tim Wykins, who says, models shall be machine readable. So this is also a big advantage of models compared to documents, that it's rather easy to consume the information stored in the model by machines. Other than the model-based systems engineering, we have additional challenges in developing safety-critical cyber-physical systems. We need to speed up the development cycles. And agile development is kind of the standard approach to speed up the development cycles, which basically leads that you need advanced configuration and change management, but still you need to fulfill the norms. And the norms are not getting less, but rather more. One famous norm is the ISO 26222 for the automotive industry when it comes to safety critical software. And obviously your supply chain plays a critical role in developing products. So there is additional complexity coming into your system development process. And these are the typical approaches we see at our customers, how to tackle them. Next slide. And I talked before about the model. Very often we hear, oh, you're just drawing diagrams or you're drawing pictures. But this is exactly not what you're doing when you build a model. The model is the elements in the red box connected to each other. The diagrams are just views. So you, in a proper built model, you can delete all the diagrams and you will not lose any information. And obviously, if you have a machine accessing the model to render, for example, source code or to render documents, It will not be able to interpret the diagrams. It just can interpret the model, the graph that lives in the model repository. Next slide. And this is an example. I think that is very, very simplified, of course, but what we will show you today. We'll show you today that you have requirements in your requirements management solution. In our case, the windshield solution. And what you want to do, you want to create a traceability to fulfill your norms. And one of the ways to create the traceability is that you import or link or sync or whatever you want to call it, the requirements information into the model, and like in this case, connect the requirement with use cases before you further drill down your architecture. Next slide.
Okay, where can we help you to address the challenges which you have with Agile MBSE? And yeah, this picture you have seen at the beginning of our webinar, but I will explain it a little bit more to you. So on the left side, we have the ALM system. In our case, it is Reinschel, RVNS, or Integrity. And on the right side, we have the modeling software. In our case, Spark's Enterprise Architect. And between these tools, the document-based approach and the model-based system, you have a tool gap between. Therefore, NANGA developed EA integrity integration to synchronize the data between these two tools. And this works in both directions. And also when you're working with your models, you want to collaborate with other teams, and you have the need to create branches of your model. And also you need a good versioning, and therefore LieberLieber has developed Lemon Tree. And with Lemon Tree, you can make this and merge your model elements. And as your information, Lemon Tree is using Git, for example, in the background, but it is also working with PTC source code.
Lifecycle Manager.
Lifecycle Manager, yes. Sorry.
And this is a very interesting point, because we typically, if you see communication from us, it's mostly focused around Git, but we also have very successful deployments with customers using PTC Lifecycle Manager.
Okay. I think for now, this is enough information and background information and theory. Yeah, let's do a live demo. This picture on the right here, what you can see, I've taken the last time I've presented this tool to Lars. And he was very focused, and he said it was amazing to use and see how it works. And yeah, I hope you will enjoy this too. And yeah, if you have questions, just feel free to ask it in the chat. Okay, now I will jump to the system. It's here on my virtual machine. I've installed Integrity, Reinschel RVNS 12. And there I have prepared two documents. The first one is a requirement document. Here we have some requirements for a coffee machine, coffee maker. And then we have a second one, which contains some test cases related to these requirements. And I also have prepared an enterprise architect project. For these guys who are not familiar with enterprise architect, you have on the left side a project structure with some packages and some content, then a modeling area, and on the right side, some properties and tech values. And yeah, here I have prepared a use case diagram. This we have seen in the presentation so far. And what we want to do now is to synchronize our requirement document from Integrity, this one, into our enterprise architect. And then we want to relate some requirements to these use cases. So to do this, I must choose a package in this model or project structure, and then right click and specialize and NANGA Systems connector. And then it is asking for some connection details. I will click next. Then we must select our requirement document. It is in the project EA integration. And then we have our document here. And the last point is optional. You can also select some baselines, and baselines are a way to versioning a document in integrity. And in practice, this is very, very helpful option that you can not only import the document as it is, you can also import or synchronize baselines of the document.
Especially if you have branches in your model, it makes perfect sense to import a specific baseline into the model and not just the head.
Yes. Okay. Then we will start the import. And it is running and using the API of integrity in the backend. So, and now it is finished. The integration has created 2 new packages, which you can see here on the left. The first one is a PDC document. This contains all elements which we have in our document in integrity. So our headings and the requirements. And we also get a report package. And there we find a small impact report where we can see what's happening in the last synchronization step. So in this case, all elements was created or are created, and therefore we have only green values and no orange values here. Okay, now we want to expand our model or diagram. So I will move one of the requirements into this diagram. Oops, it's the wrong. And as you can see here, you can work with this requirement. You can build some traces to other items there. And this is a good way to work with the requirements from integrity inside of Enterprise Architect. So now I will import the second document I've prepared. So again, right-click, specialize, NANGA connector, and integrity to EA. And now we will select the test document. It's the same project. And here we have the document. We start again the import. Yes, it needs to save. Okay, and now it is finished, and we see here a new document with the test case. Okay, and now I want to show you how you can relate some of the requirements with these test cases. So we will add a new diagram to our package. In this case, we will add the requirement diagram. And we can again move some of the requirements into this diagram. This one and this one, for example. And now I will show you a functionality of lemon tree. So we want to push these changes and this model to Git. So we must click on specialize, can select the lemon tree add-in. And there we can do a commit and push. Yeah, we need to save it and say a new diagram. And then it is running in the background and commit and pushing all changes to our repository.
Maybe I want to add something. It's also supported with any standard version control client, but the simplified Git client inside Enterprise Architect is built for people, especially systems engineers that don't have a software background, to take some of the shyness away of using a proper version control system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can also double check our changes if they are in the repository. So we see here new diagram, it's 30 seconds ago. So it was working. And now I will show you functionality of our NAE add-in. So when I open again our new diagram, and when I move one of the test cases to this, then it directly resolves our relationships. And this relationship we have initially created in integrity. So this comes from our synchronization. We can check this also on the integrity side. So we have our test case to make an espresso. And this test case, when we look into the details, has a validates trace, and this trace goes back to our requirement, and we have synchronized this relationship. Okay, you have already seen that we can synchronize data from integrity to enterprise architect, but we also can synchronize data in the other way or other direction. So what we want to do is to add a new test case. We call it test for cappuccino, maybe, and say save. Then we can move it in the right direction, our diagram. And now it comes to a very important point to met all conditions for the synchronization. We need some tags on our new test case. The first one is we need an ID tag. And we also need a category tag. So it maps to a new category in our integrity system. And I must also change the name here. And we can look on the old test case, it was a user acceptance test. So I will copy this value and we'll add this to the new one too. Okay, and we also want to create a relationship to the cappuccino requirement. And we call this relationship validates.
And yes, you are seeing those relationships created on a diagram, but this is just a helper for the editor. In reality, these links are also created in the model, in the graph behind the scenes.
Yeah, correct. And after we have created this link, we want to synchronize these changes back to integrity. So we choose synchronize EA to integrity this time. And it is asking for connection details. And we have the possibility to create a baseline, but for now, I will only sync it as it is. I need to save. And then it is running in the background. And as you can see, the synchronization successfully finished. And when we jump to integrity, oops, and look into the test case document, then we can see our new test case for cappuccino in this case, and we have the relationship to the requirement. Okay, we made some changes on our diagram. Therefore, we want to push these changes back to our repository. So new test case, for example. Okay, successful. And now I want to show you a second feature from Lemon Tree, which is very helpful in your daily work. So we can look into the logs, and in this window which comes up, there we can see all commits we made. So I will select the last two of them, and then we can start a compare view or a diff. I will click on this. And in this user interface, you can see on the left side one commit, and on the right side the other commit. And we can see, okay, what have changed. For example, we have a new test case added, and also our diagram has changed. And this is a very, very important feature of Lemon Tree. So we can do a diff directly in the diagram. So you can directly see which has changed in your diagrams. And this is very, very helpful in your daily work. Okay, that was it with the live demo so far. I will switch back to our presentation. And yeah, just a few words about branches and baselines. As I already said, baseline is a possibility to make a version of your, for example, your requirement in or your document in integrity. And in this example, one guy is creating a branch B1 with the baseline A. Then he made some changes, creates a baseline B. And in parallel, a second guy created branch B and using baseline A. And then they want to merge their work. So they are using a lemon tree to merge both versions. And then we can trigger a new sync back to integrity. And we can do this with the help of the NANGA add-in. And the NANGA add-in then creates a baseline C in integrity. Okay, Daniel, I think you can take over.
And with the time available and the focus on the integration of the PTC LM, we couldn't show the merging with Lemon Tree today, but you can always contact us or watch our YouTube to see that. My tagline is basically, don't say Agile if you can't merge your models. Because without a concept like feature branching, it will be simply very hard to survive developing safety critical systems in an agile fashion. Next one, please. So what our clients typically do on the modeling side is that they work with processes close to Git flow, like doing feature branches. So your current consistent state of development is typically in the develop branch. The main branch is just for releases, and each feature is developed in its own feature branch. If you're not ready to deploy it, you keep it in the feature branch as long as you want. And this is the capabilities you get because of Lemon Tree's three-way different merge capabilities. We had a question earlier if it also supports Subversion. Yes, you can also do this with Subversion if you want to. And what's a cool addition, what we can do is, if you set up a pipeline, you can publish the model to a Spark Systems Pro Cloud server and consume a consistent state of the model because it's develop or main, whatever you wish. You can communicate the model in your organization to other stakeholders. And this is a very important thing. If you work with just a central repository and all the stakeholders see all the intermediate steps, it gets messy very fast. If you just publish for the stakeholders consistent states in your development process, it's much nicer and supports safety critical much better. Next slide. Q&A, here we are.
The unmute button. So hello, so thank you everybody. And most of all, thank you to Daniel and to Manuel for the presentation and that nice showcase that they have prepared. We now come to the Q&A session. My suggestion would be, we have answered one or two questions already, Daniel and I did. I will read the question and then one of the two experts should raise their hand and answer the question. I will start with the question from Andreas Lorenz. What about filtering possibilities of requirements baselines? For example, regarding status or type priority importing to architecture tools. So can that be filtered? Daniel or Manuel, can you answer?
I think that's a question in my direction. Yeah, you can filter your elements, but only on a few fields or attributes. So you can filter layers with a different or a special category. You can say, okay, only a functional requirement will be synced and not a non-functional requirement, for example. I hope this answers your question. We can show it to you more in detail in a private chat or a call, maybe. But yeah, we have some features to do this.
Okay, thank you, Manuel. The next question from Konrad Tetschka. I hope I pronounced this right. Is it possible to import attributes from integrity to enterprise architect instead of creating tags manually? In your example, test cases have been specified, have a specified set of attributes.
Yeah, I can show it to you directly in the system. I must only close the presentation. So in the background of our Addin, you have a mapping file, which you can find on app data roaming and so on. But there you have the possibility to define which attributes you want to synchronize to your integrity, to your enterprise architect. And in this case, we have a mapping for the category you have seen and the ID tag. This is mandatory. And then you have some optional possibilities to say, okay, you want to synchronize, for example, state in a attribute or tag value status for example. This is only an example, but you can configure which attributes you want to synchronize to enterprise architect.
Okay. Super, thank you. And I would suggest if any questions are not answered properly, please repost your question and then we will do it in a follow-up comment. Okay, so next question from Heiko Philip. How long does it take to synchronize enterprise architect and the requirements document with about 5,000 items? I would say it depends on the document and the items, but is there any ideas or any experiences from one of the two of you?
Yeah, we are using the integrity API in the background. So we are, or this depending on the speed of your integrity server. And yeah, it is also depending on your configuration, because when you want to synchronize a lot of attributes, then it takes a little bit more time. If you only use the or synchronize the ID and category of the items, then it's a little bit faster. So there is no yeah, thumb up or thumb rule to say it needs X seconds. It's depending on your system.
Okay. Super, thank you, Manuel. And then another question from Heiko Philip: is there a suspect link concept integrated?
This is hard to answer from my side because I not really know what you mean with this in the use case of our integration. But yeah.
So maybe you can do a follow-up. So this, the impact of the concept of suspect linking is basically I change one requirement on item and it has an effect on another item. So for example, a test case, and it will be highlighted with a suspect flag. So I think the question would be, if I change a requirement and do a re-import or resynchronize, will the model be flagged as something has changed?
Yeah, okay, this is a integrity configuration. So in integrity, you will see that there is a change which comes from enterprise architect. On the other way, you only can see it in the reports. So when you see one value has changed, then you can analyze this and make other changes manually.
Okay. And I think there's a third question from Mr. Philip. So I would suggest we have a follow-on discussion to also dig into the suspect topic afterwards. The third question from Mr. Philip is how is the mapping done between the new enterprise architect elements syncing back to PTC requirement test document structures? Does that make sense, Manuel?
Yeah, the mapping is the same like in the direction integrity to EA. So we will have a mapping, for example, we can look on our test case, user acceptance test, and in the mapping, it is defined that it is a test case by default. And in the other way, when you resynchronize a test case, it will get also the category we are defined in the category attribute. So this is the way you can map which elements will be which elements on the integrity server or document.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think that has been answered already. Or how is Codebeamer supported from Mr. Thomas Wrobel? How is Codebeamer supported as requirements tool? As I understood from Daniel in the discussions beforehand, this is can be implemented too, right?
Yes, the Codebeamer connector is done by LieberLieber and it's a different solution that fulfills the same purpose with a different data source and similar capabilities.
Super.
If you want to see more, reach out to welcome@lieberlieber.com and we can, or to NANGA, and we can arrange a demo.
Okay, thank you. Let me see, is there any others? Two more questions. And one more question from Arno Bechstedt. Can be done the synchronization of contents in both directions without influencing the structure in both documents and models? Manuel, is that something you can answer?
My microphone was off.
Yes.
Yes, in general, this is possible. But yeah, Arno, you're right. We have some problems at the moment, but we'll fix this because in Arno's case, they had a very special architecture, and this is a very, very special use case, I would say. But yeah, in general, it is possible to synchronize without influencing a structure.
Super. Thank you, Manuel. And at the moment, the last question from Maximilian Karl. Is the unique ID created by Integrity when a requirement/test case is created in Enterprise Architect and then imported into Integrity? A short answer, I would suggest yes, right?
Yes. Do you mean the unique ID in Integrity or in the GUID in Enterprise Architect? Yeah, when you create a new item there, I think we can look onto our test case. Mm-hmm. I have edited the ID tag, but it was empty. And after the synchronization, our Addin writes back the new ID from Integrity to this tag value.
Yeah, and I think also vice versa, right? Something that's created in Enterprise Architect, for example, a requirement that is pushed back to Integrity or Windchill RVNS will be the same, right? ID will be created. Okay, super. Okay, I think at the moment we don't have any more questions. Like I said, we will follow up with you after the meeting. First of all, thank you also everybody for attending the meeting today. I hope it was helpful. Anything that wasn't helpful, please come back to us so we can discuss. For now, again, thank you very much for our marketing team for organizing the event, for Daniel and Manuel for hosting the event and preparing the showcase, and of course for everybody attending. We hope to do this live sometime again. Wish you all the best. Thank you very much for attending, and bye-bye.